Hey there, everybody. Welcome back to the only podcast. I'm Chris Vanini, once again coming from my parents' basement, as all podcasts should. I have not moved to Dallas yet, but that is still in the process of happening. You may hear a meowing cat in the background. That is the cat. That is not Austin.
No, not me.
Austin? I guess you weren't on last week. We were off the week before, so you have been on for a while. So how are things going?
Good, man. Just been a little busy. Been, feeling some withdrawals from not being on here, but all is well. I'm actually in Denver right now, visiting some family for Thanksgiving, and just getting ready to eat more than any one person should in one sitting. So get to watch some football, some basketball, really knock the whole thing out. So it should be a good week.
Yeah, I mean, I guess if I'm going from Detroit to Dallas, the Thanksgiving football NFL will still be a tradition for me. We're recording this live as the college football playoff rankings are being revealed. If MSU shows up, we will let you know.
Yes, we absolutely will.
So we'll talk basketball later. We're going to start with football because this is a football school.
Yeah.
And so last week, MSU fights valiantly, loses by 1 point to Ohio State on a missed 2-point conversion. We can talk about that decision in a minute. But first, Austin, just your thoughts on the game in general. I mean, MSU played hard. They didn't play well in all areas, but, now 5 games against Urban Meyer, and these two teams are separated by a single point. So D'Antonio seems to know what he's doing against Urban Meyer.
Yeah, I don't know what it is about this matchup. I mean, it obviously holds a special place in D'Antonio's heart, having coached there and won a national championship there and being from Ohio and all of that. But at the same time, I don't know what it is. It seems like every time Ohio State plays Michigan State, they completely change what they do. And I don't know if that's, at least offensively, I don't know if that's a product of MSU being really, it can't be them being totally familiar with the scheme because it's Meyer's scheme. It's not like it's somebody that D'Antonio coached with. But I mean, I think JT Barrett ran the ball more than he had all season in the first half. I think he had like over 15 carries in the first half alone. And for whatever reason, Ohio State completely changes up what they do and seems to play into MSU's hands, or at least they have the last 2 years. 2 years ago was more weather than anything else. But I thought State played really hard. I thought the guys, they went out there and gave it all they had. Obviously it's an undermanned team, still a young team with a lot of the same flaws all season. But my biggest takeaway from it was that this has really been a bit of a trend the last few weeks, is that the offensive and defensive lines are significantly better. They've gotten compliments now from Harbaugh and Meyer. And obviously they railroaded Rutgers, but that they've controlled the line. And this week was without McDowell, and that defense, got to the quarterback 3 times against an offensive line that had given up, I think it was like 5 sacks all year. And they got to Barrett 3 times. So it's nice to see some discipline and some, fight in the trenches from the young guys that have been playing a lot. And it makes you feel a little more comfortable with the future, especially, rolling into 2017, knowing that those huge problem areas look like they've got some guys who can make that not so much of an issue moving forward.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about Ohio State's plan. They go away from Mike Weber. They go away from Curtis Samuel, and they just like the problem last year. You had Ezekiel Elliott call out the coaches for not giving him the ball more. And while I don't think that was as much of a mistake as much as them not throwing the ball last year,
right?
It was just I'm very surprised that they did that, given what happened a year ago and how they changed what they do after that game. So very surprised by that. Now I will say though, running Barrett did work pretty well. He averaged 4.4 yards a carry, but Weber averaged nearly 8. He had a 52-yarder. And you figure you don't want your quarterback to take that many shots.
Yeah, especially coming down the stretch here, and their playoff hopes are very much alive. And I'm a little surprised that they did that. But you mentioned Curtis Samuel, and that was the one that surprised me the most, be it on the ground or through the air. I mean, you saw on his.
He had 8 touches for the whole game.
Cover him.
Yeah, 8 touches the whole game.
Yeah,
he had the 1 touchdown, but I mean, if we talk about the passing, they did pass 22 times, and Barrett 10 for 22. He did not look
he didn't look good at all
passing. He had some very just straight up bad throws in general. And that game against MSU in 2014, Barrett, that was one of the best performances I've ever seen from a quarterback.
He was incredible.
He's never really quite been that good again. And maybe it was the injury, maybe it was whatever, but he's just not the same guy there. And so I was surprised by that. And then coupled that with MSU was getting decent pressure on him. They had 3 sacks. They had 3 sacks in the first half. They were averaging 0.7 sacks a game.
They had 7 coming in.
Yeah, 7 on the whole year coming in. So that was a good, and that was without Malik McDowell as well. So yeah, I think there's a lot of positive signs about the defensive line's future.
Did anybody jump out at you? Because I know at least one guy jumped out at me.
I'm trying to remember Raequan Williams was his normal, pretty good self, but trying to remember. It was
I tell you, to me, it was Panashuk all the way, man. He looked like he grew up. He looks like a kid that's ready to. I mean, he's going to be a starter next year in the middle, alongside assuming McDowell does in fact go to the pros, which is more of a question mark now than I ever thought it would be, just with the injury and the lack of tremendous production. I still think he's going to go.
I think it may hurt his stock, but I almost think all the injuries this year would make him more likely to go.
Yeah. I think he'll go. Don't get me wrong. If he does go, as we all assume he will, I mean, that Raequan Williams, Panashuk starting, at tackle looks pretty good. He was holding his own. I think he had one of the sacks, and you always knew he was going to be
he had half a sack.
Yeah, he really impressed me, and so did Bowers. I mean, where's Robert Bowers been? And he really flashed off the edge. Again, it's not like they did this against, I hate to beat a dead horse, but it's not like they did this against Rutgers. This was Ohio State. This is a team with a good offensive line. It's a team that's a national champion, a very real national championship contender, and that's got to, at this point, it's all just looking for silver linings with a 3-8 record. But that was a good step in the right direction, I thought.
Yeah, even walk-on linebacker Alexander out of nowhere had a very noticeable game. You know who didn't have a good game was Ed Davis. He was beat numerous times, got destroyed on blocks, missed holes over pursuit. Looking at the boxer, he only finished 1 tackle.
Yeah, I didn't even.
He was noticeably not very good. The linebackers, it's weird because they're talented, but man, they make a lot of noticeable mistakes. But they also are beat up. Riley Bull is beat up. Chris Fry's beat up.
Yeah, it'll be interesting next year. I mean, you still have so much talent, even losing Bulla. I think once Andrew Dowell he just needs to mature a little bit on the field, because you see the playmaking ability. He dropped a pick 6, though. He should have had a pick 6 in that game, but there's plenty of talented linebackers. I thought Tyreek Thompson played well. His limited minutes, I know he played a little bit last week, and he played a decent amount against Rutgers. I thought he looked pretty good. You got the other Bulla who will be back next year, so it's in good hands. But I'm with you. I mean, it's one of the many reasons why they've just not lived up to, it's one of many, but it's a reason why they haven't lived up to expectations, because you're counting on that to be, coming into the season, that's supposed to be your best position group. And it's probably been a stronger one, but they make a lot of mistakes, man. You're right. Over pursuing, bad angles. And they're just and they're beat up, and you can see it. And they're just one step slow. They're just one step slow. So hopefully a long off season will help them get healthy and be ready to roll.
Yeah, I kind of wondered that with them not going to a bowl game and just kind of getting a hard reset.
It's not the worst thing.
Maybe taking bowl practices off, considering how many young guys are playing already.
Yeah. I mean, it would be nice. Obviously, you never want to turn down those practices, and the bowl game is a good thing no matter any way you slice it. But yeah, I think you're right. The hard reset is something that this program could really stand to use after a season like this. Kind of get some new leaders, some of these younger guys that are playing a lot, taking vocal leadership roles in the offseason workouts and things like that. That's going to go a really long way next year. So hopefully they can, even though they're not going to be obviously able to have organized practices here, hopefully they do a lot of the voluntary workout stuff, and this team really rallies behind some of the younger players and takes a big step forward. I think that seems to be the direction it's heading. I hope they can have a good showing here this next week and really kind of launch into that.
Yeah, defensive back wise, not awful. I mean, the numbers were pretty good. Cox got beat by Samuel on the touchdown, which whatever, it's what he does.
But that's why I was surprised they didn't go to Samuel all day. They could have lined him up over Cox or Nicholson in the slot.
I've been surprised that they've gone back to the Nicholson Cox mix. I mean, Kari Willis has been beaten several times, so I can get it. But a guy who I've thought has played well at safety is Grayson Miller, and he's kind of fallen out of the rotation for whatever reason. I don't have the tape.
Was he banged up last week?
I don't know, but he hasn't started. One tackle this time.
Because I thought Morrissey looked pretty good too, but I know
Yeah, so I don't know. Okay, so offensively, it was about LJ Scott, and that was it.
Yeah.
But man, that was a heck of a
pretty good summation of
some impressive running by Scott. And the offensive line blocked okay for him. I mean, he only had I think like one loss run.
Yeah.
Though Gerald Holmes had a big loss on one.
Yeah.
But I mean, just MSU's very lucky. LJ Scott will be coming back next year, and 19 carries. He's not getting the Javon Ringer 30 carry load, so you hope he's fresher for his junior year.
Yeah, I think it's going to be his star turn next year. Because it's crazy. They were able to do that yesterday, without Higbee, who's been out for the season. And you like to think that some of these younger guys that are going to be coming back, Chewins can pack on some more weight.
Right. That's
pretty good at left tackle, man. I didn't see him get beat a whole lot, if at all, and during the game. I could be misremembering, but I think next season you're going to be riding him, and hopefully just with a more competent quarterback, be it Lewerke or DeWeaver. I think either of them will beat out Terry personally, but that you can kind of open that offense back up a little bit and really be a viable passing team. O'Connor, he's given it his all. I appreciate him sticking around, and you never want to. I would hate to badmouth a guy like that who's obviously like such a good kid, but he just doesn't have it. He just didn't have it this year. He just missed. His last pick was just terrible.
it was a lot like the Michigan one at half.
Yeah, it's very similar.
I mentioned this in the podcast last week, and maybe I jinxed it or something. But O'Connor entered the game surprisingly top 31 nationally in passer rating and yards per attempt, and both were higher than Connor Cook a year ago. Now I imagine those are down now after this game, but I think the yards per attempt was up because he got the big plays that Connor Cook never did. But I was surprised to see that. And O'Connor's generally actually been okay on the pass on play action, but his third down numbers have been brutal.
Yeah,
it was.
It's a telegraphed passes. He just when on obvious passing downs, he just doesn't make the.
He couldn't get much of anything going. Not much to say on that. He couldn't get much going. And. So, okay, let's talk about this 2-point conversion. So, down by 7, MSU ties it up scores a touchdown with about 4 minutes left. Decide to go for 2. O'Connor was picked off on a bad pass. And I thought this at the time when I was looking at the replay, and I guess it was confirmed afterward. Although Jamal Lyles was open right away, O'Connor, the first read was Price.
Was not okay. Yeah.
And he was looking at Price, and then you can kind of tell it's not there, and I think he just mental clock, and he starts to throw to Lyles before he's totally looking at him, and that's why the throw was so errant, even though he wasn't open anyway.
Right.
It would have been picked off by the other guy anyway, but Lyles was there for a second, but that wasn't the first read.
Yeah.
And you put that on O'Connor, yeah, I mean, you shouldn't make that throw, but what'd you think about the decision, and what'd you think about the play?
I think the decision was fine. I was at first, my natural reaction is always to extend the game, because that's just generally you're going to have more success that way. Otherwise, it's one and done. It's just one little thing goes wrong in the play, a bad snap, wrong read, and your whole game's probably shot. But in this case, you're 3-7 at the time. You got a chance to beat the number 2 team in the country. You've got them at home. You've done a pretty good job of slowing them down all day. I'm fine with the decision. I really am, because of this situation. I think if Michigan State's, instead of 3-7, they're 7-3 or 8-2, and there's real implications to the game. I think you extend it every single time, and you trust your defense, and you try to get to overtime or get a stop and move down the field. But that's just not the case this year. So with the decision, I'm totally fine with it. Maybe I'm crazy, but the play. Okay, so you brought up a point that I hadn't really thought about, and if an out to the short side to a tight end is your first read on a 2-point conversion, that's just not knowing your personnel and not knowing your quarterbacks. He's not going to be able to make that throw in those tight corners. You should just know that as an offensive coordinator. Now, if the first read is supposed to be Lyles and he just missed it, because Lyles was open, like you said.
For a second, yeah.
Yeah, then I'm okay with the play. Because if he gets him the ball on time and his head's turned around, it's 2 yards. He would have fallen forward into the end zone. But he waited and threw it into 2 Buckeyes. I'm okay with the play call. I don't love it, if only because you've been they ran the ball like 10 times in a row down the field there. I would have been okay with like a spread them out like Warner loves to do, spread them out 4 wide and then just give a little draw to LJ up the middle, give him a one-on-one against the linebacker and give your best player the ball. So the play call, I'm less sold on. The decision, I'm all for it. And then O'Connor just made a terrible throw, made the wrong decision. Like you said, I think he just panicked. He's not used to having that much time in the pocket. And he just, like you said, threw before he was looking. But decision, I'm okay with. Play call, and on. But if you think about it, they got the ball back. They had a chance to drive down the field and score with timeouts.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't mind it. I mean, go for it. You got nothing. You literally have nothing to lose. I mean, winning the game doesn't do a ton for you. That'd be great, but 4-7 and 3-8 isn't a huge difference to me.
Right. I was all for it for reasons that you said. My dad was very much against it, who I watched it with, and Danny Cannell was against it, and some people on Twitter were against it, but I was for it for a lot of reasons. For one, you got nothing to lose.
Right.
2, you could get the ball back, and they did with 2 minutes left. You couldn't have asked for much of a better chance. They just blew it right away.
Yeah.
And Ohio State has the number 1 red zone defense in the country.
Man.
And say you even get to overtime,
right?
Do you trust your kicker to make a field goal? First, do you trust to get in the end zone from the 25? Because
what's the other overtime game they had? He got sacked twice. And
right, he got sacked, missed a field goal. Do you trust your kicker?
You can't trust your offense to execute. You got to capitalize.
I would not have trusted the offense. All things even, 25 and 25. I wouldn't have put money on it on MSU to get that. So or you're at the 3-yard line, you get one shot. I'm fine with it. I think it was totally fine. Totally fine with it. The play, I had mixed thoughts afterward. My first thought was, what about running an option? Because O'Connor can run, and LJ Scott, obviously it's a way to possibly get the ball in LJ Scott's hand and let him make a play, if you have that chance. On the other side, I thought, well, last time they went for 2, they ran an option play, and with O'Connor, and it ended up Jabril Peppers taking it back for 2 points. So maybe Scott isn't the best guy to take that. I don't know. But I thought about back to the 4th down play against Ohio State last year, about 4th and 3 or something like that. And they ran the option with O'Connor. He made a guy miss. He picked up the 1st down. I probably would have done that just to put the ball in more playmakers' hands.
Or even the shovel pass to Price, which they love to do in those short yardage areas all the time. Well, I'm not a huge fan of that play call, but I like it.
Did you see Pitt ran that like 10 times against Clemson 2 weeks ago?
I did see some of it. Pitt,
they ran it on
style football, man. It's all fullbacks and jet sweeps.
But so much of the tight end shovel pass there. But yeah, I probably would have done an option, and as bad as it played out the last time they did it, I would have just put more. I would have put it in the hands of O'Connor's legs or LJ Scott as opposed to his arm. So totally fine with the play, or totally fine with the decision. Didn't really agree with the play, but
I'm with you.
That's where they're at now. Anything else you want to touch on there on that game?
Not really on the game. I mean, I think you pretty much nailed it. Although I'll give a shout out to Justin Lane. I didn't think he played particularly all that. He didn't jump out at that, which is kind of okay for a corner. But I just think he's going to be the real deal, man. He got long arms, 6'2". I think he's going to be able to hang with some of these bigger wide receivers. So, and they only gave up 89 yards to the air.
Something like that.
So I thought he did a pretty good job.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, no.
So we'll do a full post-mortem on football next week or the week after. But so this team, before we get into Penn State, what do you think of where the team's at right now going into next year? Because the way I look at it, they have all the same problems they had coming into this year, except now they've got maybe a little more clarity at those positions. You're going to need to figure out your quarterback situation. You've got Lewerke there. You've got Terry. You got some guys Lewerke looked promising, and there's possibly DeWeaver. You got a question at offensive line. Again, but we've seen the young guys this year play pretty well. There's still holes, and they need to improve there. But there are some bright spots, like you said, Tyler Higbee, Colt Chewins, and the like. They still have questions at defensive line. But again, there are young guys there who have shown promise, and I think that's a promising sign. And they have questions at defensive back, which, again, young guys who have shown potential. I think there's a lot more potential. We see a lot more potential in the same holes going into next year as we saw going into this year. What do you think?
Yeah, no, it's a pretty accurate assessment. I would just say I feel a little better about most of the areas, notably quarterback. Just even in the brief glimpses we saw of Lewerke, you saw a guy that if he's going to be given the chip or given the reins, that I think he just has more arm talent, a little more poise than O'Connor ever really.
I keep thinking about if he hadn't gotten hurt, the amount of valuable experience he'd be getting. He's shown great confidence out there.
Right.
He doesn't look rattled. Even game Maryland, he didn't have great numbers, but when you watch him, you see a lot of good things. He made some tremendous throws on the run off of play action against Maryland. He's got a much better arm, maybe not the biggest arm in the world, but a pretty good arm. And again, he was a freshman, and he's shown he can get out of the pocket, he can continue to keep plays alive, make plays.
I mean,
and all that.
This is going to sound cliche or whatever, but he has a lot of the same characteristics of a young Connor Cook.
I was thinking that too.
I mean, the one thing that always jumped out about Cook to me, going back to the Buffalo Wild Wings Bowl, is he just had that poise. He never looked shaken, which is why he was able to make the big plays in the big moments. And that's something that O'Connor was never really able to do. And that's something, I mean, I guess Damian Terry made that one nice pass at the end of that one game, but that's about it.
That's all the only good passes ever.
Yeah, I mean, I'm grasping at straws here for Damian, but he reminds me of Cook. Good, not above average, not great arm. I think he's a little more athletic than Cook is. Big guy. I like him. I think
I
he's
do
got a
too.
real chance to be the guy if he can be healthy and be ready for the spring. That's the biggest thing is like, since he's missed this time, he's got to be at least close to ready to go for the spring. Otherwise, he's not behind the 8 ball by any stretch because he'll be healthy for the fall. But
It's just a missed opportunity.
it's just a lot of
there's not going to be bowl practices to miss.
Right. And so this kind of touches on Penn State, so it might be a good segue. But
Let's do it.
I hope that they've said both quarterbacks are going to play this week. And I think O'Connor should play because it's his last game. You got nothing to lose. You might as well let the guy get his one last moment in the spotlight. I'm all for it. But I kind of hope Damian Terry gets 60-40, if for no other reason than to keep him engaged. Because there is a nightmare scenario for Michigan State. And it is that Damian Terry transfers. This is not the only part. Damian Terry transfers, and then the loser of the Lewerke-DeWeaver battle also transfers. And then you're left with one quarterback and Rocky Lombardi coming in as a true freshman next year. And that you're flirting with, I mean, you've seen injuries the last 2 years. You see them every year with teams. But like, then if your quarterback goes down, I mean, you're relying on a true freshman and you're burning years of eligibility, and you find yourself right back in a similar situation where you've got two kids whose classes are, bunched up right against each other. And so I'm kind of hoping that Terry, gets to play in front of – he's from Pennsylvania, so I'm sure he wants to play in this big stage. I hope he goes out and has a decent performance and wants to hang around. And even if it's as the backup next year, like it would be a shame to lose him and then also lose the loser of that, quote-unquote QB of the future competition. Does that resonate at all, or is that just me?
Yeah, I mean, that's always especially in today's day and age, it's always a concern. I think it's notable and surprising that both O'Connor and Terry did not transfer throughout all that time while Connor Cook won the job. At the same time, you wonder, based on what we've seen from Damian Terry, where does he think he could go where he would start?
Yeah. I mean, hey,
he hasn't looked great, and O'Connor said he never considered it, and I believe him. But based on what we've seen, again, would he have won the job if he ended up leaving anyway? So that's always a lot of times guys maybe think they have better opportunities than they do. So and the other thing, Terry, I don't know where he is academic-wise, but this is his 4th year. Possible he could graduate. Yeah. If he's on track to graduate, I don't know. But if he is, he could theoretically graduate transfer out too.
Right. So. But it's more of a, it's a body count thing. I mean, I think losing Terry in a vacuum wouldn't be this disaster, but there is a situation where, I mean, if the loser of the other QB derby decides to call it try to call it and go somewhere where he wants to play, which it happens all over the country. It happened in Alabama this year where, Blake Barnett lost the job to Jalen Hurts, and he transferred right away despite being a, star quarterback recruit. And, Messiah DeWeaver or Brian Lewerke, I mean, these guys, from all we've heard about DeWeaver, that he's the most talented quarterback recruit that D'Antonio has ever landed. He was just a huge get. Lewerke, you've seen that there's potential there. So these guys are both going to want to play. And you can't really fault either of them for wanting to go somewhere to play. So yeah,
I mean, I have no idea what DeWeaver looks like.
Right. No,
in practice, and we heard hype about Damian Terry was a highly touted quarterback. I mean, Ohio State. He turned down Ohio State toward the end of.
Yeah. No, you're right.
Yeah. It's
just this nightmare scenario that it crossed my mind. I think I read it somewhere on Twitter, and I was like, "Ooh, that would be bad."
So speaking of Terry, it was 2 years. You talk about throwing him in this game. It was 2 years ago that he got put into the game at Penn State, backed up at his goal line right after MSU had, I believe, taken an early lead, and MSU, I believe it was in the first half, and MSU never really got the field position back in that half. That was one of those decisions that I did not. It was a weird spot to give him playing time and experience, but So yeah, MSU goes to Penn State, which is number 7 in the rankings. And I don't know if you've gone through Penn State's profile yet, but man, this is a weird team, man.
Yeah.
They're not really good at anything. I mean, they're like in the 30s in scoring, they're in the 50s in rushing. They're, I believe, the worst team in the country in third downs. This is all offensively and defensively. Yeah. You all right?
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh, I just heard some weird noise. Defensively, they're improving, but their bread and butter is big plays. They are among the top in the country at plays of 30 yards, 40 yards, and that's how they're kind of getting by that, and they're winning close games. They've won some of their Big Ten scores. They beat Minnesota by 3 after trailing at halftime. They beat Ohio State by 3 on a blocked field goal.
Yeah, that was crazy.
They beat Indiana by 14, but it was really 7 because they got a defensive touchdown at the very end. And then they blanked Rutgers last week. So it's a team that has scored at least 39 points in 4 straight games, but it's not like your typical move up and down the field offense. There are, statistically speaking, there are flaws on this team. Saquon Barkley is a tremendous running back. I remember Malik McDowell said last year that he was better than Derrick Henry, and that was when he was a freshman.
Man.
Trace McSorley is a tough quarterback who can make plays on the run. What do you think about Penn State?
I mean, you pretty much nailed it. They're just a weird team.
Yeah, I did.
What is it? They're a weird team with 2 huge offensive weapons in Barkley and Chris Godwin.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not sure that there's anything. It kind of blows my mind that they're number 7 in the college playoff rankings. Coming into the year, I was thinking this team was going to fall flat on its face and James Franklin was going to be looking for a new gig. But that the opposite is true. I was looking through, like, putting together the preview today, and to speak to the weirdness, I think their leading tackler is a safety, and their leading, a linebacker has the most interceptions. Like, things are just totally flipped. Yeah. So I don't know. I know they've struggled on the offensive line in the past, and I know they lost a lot of talent off that defensive line with, what was it, Austin Johnson, Carl Nassib, both went pro. Yeah. I think they lost somebody else too, Zettel.
Yeah, I mean, Pitt ran for 300-something yards on this team early in the year, but
yeah.
but it is
State's going to have to attack them. I mean, that's what they've been doing recently. They're just going to have to, if they really are a good offensive line, and it's not just the emotion of the moment against Michigan and Ohio State, and then complete ineptitude against Rutgers, then they're going to go out and they're trying to run the ball down their throats. I think that's the best way to go. I nothing else. The passing game has not really efficiently worked all season. Got to hit a couple of big play actions over the top, and I would love to see them go out and win this game. I really would. It's going to be a tough game, but I don't think anybody would beat themselves up if State came up short here. It's not, you're going on the road, end of the season, team with legitimate Big Ten championship and playoff aspirations. If they can get this one, isn't it? If they get this one and Ohio State wins, they go.
And this game's at 3:30, so by kickoff, Penn State will know if they have a shot or not. If Michigan wins, Michigan's in. So it's possible this game kicks off and Penn State knows that they're out of the playoff.
Right.
Out of the Big Ten, therefore out of the playoff, basically. That could affect their motivation. Who knows? But I mean, MSU can absolutely pull the upset in this game.
Yeah, I agree.
And for the reasons we said, Penn State's every week I look at the top 10 team. I do a thing on Coaching Search where I look at the top teams and I break them all down by all these key stats. Scoring, defense, scoring offense, score differential, rushing offense, rushing defense, third downs, red zone, and they're just not good at any of it. they just get these huge, they just get big plays, and that's kind of what's been sustaining them. They are. It's incredible how bad they are on third downs, and that's been something that's killed MSU throughout all year. So that'll be an interesting matchup, how MSU's defense does on third downs, because Penn State has struggled to get them.
They've had that play like MSU did. MSU pulled out all these close wins last year, although statistically they were superior to Penn State. is this year. It's not exactly the same, but that win over Ohio State, the way that game ended is it's almost on par with the win at Michigan last year. I mean, that's incredible to block a field goal and return it all the way for a touchdown to win the game.
And they blocked a punt in that game too.
That's just wild. I mean, you got to give it to them. They don't.
You look at it this way: both Penn State and Michigan State played Ohio State right down the wire, and one team made the play at the end to win, and one team didn't.
Yep, and that's been the MO for MSU all year. They just can't make the play when they need to make it.
The other question is, okay, they played well against Michigan. What did they do the next week? They went out and lost at Illinois, and they played well against Illinois, but they couldn't finish drives, and then Illinois woke up, and by the end it was a completely embarrassing loss of the program. And I said this after the Ohio State game, or maybe during that. You see the performance they put out against Michigan and Ohio State, and that's what makes the games against Indiana, against Northwestern, against Maryland, against Illinois, absolutely inexcusable.
This is not a 3-8 team.
They're the highest ranked three-win team in the S&P Plus rating. So
right, I mean they should be a 6-6.
If you win that Indiana game, which you had
should have
butterfly effect and everything, you have a 14-0 lead at Indiana. If you win that game. You have a lead going to the fourth quarter against Maryland. If you win that game, Illinois is trash. You win that game. You're already a 6-win team.
Right.
You say you split those two games, you possibly go into Penn State with a chance to get to a bowl game. And I said this to you after the Indiana game. I said, this is the kind of loss that's going to absolutely kill them when we get to the end of the year. And it doesn't, because they've added a lot more of those types of losses. But this absolutely should not have been a 3-win team. And it's an indictment of the program, of the leadership, of the players, of the coaches that it got to this point. Because if you're the elite program that you think you are and you say you are, and past success has said you should be, this type of season doesn't happen.
No, I'm with you. I'm with you all the way. I couldn't agree more. I agreed with you when you said it. I mean, it's spot on. You can't do that. It's just unacceptable. It's not what you expect, like you said, from a program of this supposed caliber. And I think we all kind of feel the same way, that it's a blip on the radar. But winning a game this weekend against Penn State in Happy Valley, with them, whether or not they have the chance to go or not, they're still a top 10 team. To go on the road and do that, would just be such a huge launching pad into next year, and would kind of validate a lot of the things people have been saying the past few weeks.
Yeah, you deserve, credit for not packing it in and giving up and letting Ohio State come into your stadium and roll 100%. You. But this is 2 years in a row that they have played up or down to their competition. Yeah, last year they made the playoff. They also barely escaped Rutgers and barely escaped Purdue. So, and
Maryland.
And Maryland. This is 2 years in a row that you're not taking care of the teams you should take care of. Last year they had the talent. This year they didn't. Yep. And that says a lot about the leadership getting players focused. It says about coaches getting players prepared. So I don't know what type of changes D'Antonio is going to make in the offseason, but he did not sound like a happy camper at his
something's coming. Something's definitely coming. We should speculate wildly in our postmortem, I think.
We'll see. But, I mean, it's not.
It might beat us to the punch, though.
There's a little bit of, I think, culture, though, that needs to be addressed. Yep.
So I'm with you.
What's your pick for the Penn State game?
I'm picking Penn State 24-17 under the assumption or / hope that Ohio State can knock off Michigan, and Penn State will have a Big Ten championship to play for. And I just don't. I mean, who knows? They could fold, and Ohio State could just become Michigan State's biggest supporters. But I think they're just going to go out and win. They've got too much on the line. It's their senior day, and I think it's going to be a really close game. I think State's going to just fight, but we haven't seen them make the plays down the stretch yet. So I'm unfortunately going to pick Penn State.
I think I'm going to – you had a similar thought to me. I think I was going to go 24-21 Penn State. But I could also see this turning into 42-7.
Yeah.
And with Ohio State winning and Penn State playing for something, and MSU getting into that second half and just folding and saying this is the end of the year, we're done, and kind of packing it at the end. It's possible. So
definitely,
I'm going Penn State close, but a part of me also thinks it could be Penn State big. So
let's hope for close.
Yeah. So did not figure that this would be our last preview of football on the podcast. I figured we'd have a few more weeks of this, but oh boy, it has been a ugly season for
thank God
MSU football. But
it's almost over, guys. It's almost over.
But meanwhile, we got a basketball team over there that is doing the exact same thing as a football team, and that is
already
playing to their competition, and that is playing Arizona tight, losing at the end, playing Kentucky hard, but eventually fading, and then getting some fortuitous clock management in an ugly
Spartan Bob
win over Florida Gulf Coast. So Gulf Coast came into the game 1-2, and let's start with the end there. Let's start with that clock. It appears it was a referee mistake. It was not the clock operator's mistake, so keep that in mind. I don't know how you make that mistake, all things considered, but I thought it was – I mean, the rules are the rules, apparently, but I thought it was pretty not cool that Gulf Coast did not get another play. I mean, if that's what the rules say, it's what they said. If it went in, it would have been reviewable, which would have been even weirder.
Yeah, but my rebuttal to that is that shot clock had to screw up his shot. There's no way
it had to have.
There's no way that doesn't impact the Florida Gulf Coast guys' decision making and just wanting to get a shot up. So I think, I mean, hey, we got the win. I'm not going to apologize for that, but it's BS. I think any normal fan would agree that that's just not how you want to end a game. Even if you come out on the right side of it, that they should have replayed that. Hey, the rules are the rules, like you said. But that's a bad mistake because listen, even if Michigan State doesn't turn into this great team this year, a win on the road at Michigan State is a program win if you're Florida Gulf Coast. I mean, like, you've been to some special places. They made it to the Sweet 16 as a 15 seed. Like, they've got plenty of, they have a handful of recent history. They made the tournament last year, but like, that's a hell of a win if you're them. And to get not cheated out of it, but to not really get a fair shake at the end is too bad. Although the one thing that I think is getting lost in this conversation is the fact that Miles Bridges blocked an inbounds pass right before that, which is insane. He was able to jump up and swat an inbounds pass back out of bounds, and it's another part of the clock mismanagement. That full second ran off the clock when he did that, and I feel like that was just way too much. It was a messy end, no matter how you slice it. But I'm glad Michigan State got the win because that would have been bad.
So I'd said after the Kentucky game that the freshmen appear to be the best players on the team. And I said this on the podcast. I was wondering if they're going to kind of take it over soon. And I said, Aaron Harris nowhere to be seen. They can't go far without him. So Harris ends up dropping 31 points, and they barely beat Florida Gulf Coast. And he goes 5 for 10 on free throws. The team goes 19 for 13. Ugly spot at the line. I mean, shooting wise, they shot 51%, 53 from deep, but 57% at the free throw line, and they were bullied down low by Florida Gulf Coast, and that was a concern about the team coming in. They held their best against Arizona and Kentucky, some bigger teams, but Florida Gulf Coast pushed them around. Florida Gulf Coast had 14 offensive rebounds against MSU's 23 defensive. Thoughts on how the team kind of matches up right now?
Yeah, I think the two big concerns coming into the year were that they're going to be really young and that there's just a lack of size. I mean, that's what happened. As soon as Carter went down, it was a problem, and then Schilling went down, and it compounds the problem. It's a big issue. And you better believe Tom Izzo's running them through all of those gauntlet drills and putting the football pads on and all that stuff here, because they just the guards need to rebound big. They have size advantages at other positions. It's not like they're small 1 through 3. Even at the 4, Bridges leaps out of the friggin' gym. It's just they need to learn how to do it. It's just a young team. It's the youngest Michigan State team I can remember in a long time. And like you were saying, they play like it. They've been playing like it early here. But those are the best players on the team too. So I think they're going to have to just kind of go through these growing pains. But like, in my opinion, Nick Ward and Langford should at least Ward. If Langford's healthy enough, he should too. But those two should probably start against St. John's. Ward looks better than I could have possibly hoped.
Yeah, he looks very
like he's ready,
confident down there.
Right, and he's a big fella. He's the best size you got.
Well, about as big as I got, yeah.
Yeah, well, he's the best size you have, and so you have to play him down there. Goins and McQuaid, to me, especially until McQuaid can find his shot, which he found for one game, but then completely lost again. Those are role players. I think eventually Tum Tum is a role player as well. He still does not seem to have stepped up his offensive game at all, but the game's still moving a little too fast for Cassius, it seems like, defensively especially. Looks pretty good offensively, but I think Langford, like you said, the freshmen are the best players. I think this team is going to be at its best halfway through the season, and all 4 of those freshmen are going to be starting with Aaron Harris.
Yeah, I said after the Arizona game that this is going to be a team that loses games it shouldn't, and wins a couple maybe you don't expect. And people thought, oh, that's no different than every Izzo team. But no, I was talking like the Florida Gulf Coast type of games. Like, there's going to be days like that, and
I think this is
going to take time. I mean, it was a positive sign for Miles Bridges to say after the Kentucky game that he played terrible and he was embarrassed. Izzo basically saying stuff about sissy ball and stuff and practice but they're also traveling all over the freaking hemisphere. Now they're in the Bahamas. You compound that with a young team, and I do think that does have an effect. Absolutely. Now, are they ever going to get the chance to recover from that?
That's the scary part.
Because I think back to the 2011 team that I covered for the State News, and that they never got their confidence going because every non-conference game that year felt like a struggle. Mm-hmm. And by the time Big Ten play came around, then it got serious, and they never really ever got in the rhythm or knew what the rhythm was. So I'm curious to see with a young team, if they go on a stretch where they win 3-4 games handily and start to kind of feel better about themselves, or if the travel compounded with tight games and possibly losses will be something they struggle to recover from.
Yeah, I mean, that's a very valid concern. The travel especially is just crazy. They're all over the place. I mean, this is the type of schedule that, you're hoping you're fielding your best team, you know what I mean? Like your peak win a 5-year window type team, like your Gary Harris, your Adrian Payne, that number 1 flirting with the Final Four type team that you think can handle it. This team's just in a tough spot, and they just got to get through it. I mean, I think for the long-term health and trajectory of the program, I think Langford's more than a 1-year guy. Ward is definitely more than a 1-year guy. Winston probably a 4-year guy. All 3 of them might be. Well, Langford maybe not, but it's again, I think it's similar but different to the football team in that freshmen can make that transition in basketball a lot easier than they can make it in football. It's just a physical difference. But these kids are getting a lot of really good experience up front, and I think they're going to get starters minutes here before too long. They kind of have been already. And I think the hope is, like you said, kind of to the opposite point. Like, I hope that the travel doesn't take as much of a toll. I hope they're able to hit that roll kind of towards the end of the non-con. And because what is their schedule? I mean, hold on, I want to look at it real quick.
It's St. John's Wednesday night.
Right.
I'm recording this on Tuesday, folks. Then the next day it's Baylor, VCU, time TBA.
Wolf.
Then the next day, could be one of 4 different teams.
Yeah.
Time TBA, and then 4 days after that, they travel to Duke.
God,
And
that's
here's the stretch. It's at the end of non-conference.
Yep, looking at
They
it.
go Oral Roberts, Youngstown State, Tennessee Tech, Northeastern, Oakland, all at home. That's going to have to be the stretch where they feel they get some rest, because
You got to catch some momentum.
There's 8 days between the Northeastern and Tennessee Tech games. There's 6 days between the Oakland and Minnesota game to start conference play.
Start that conference play really nice too.
So Minnesota, Northwestern, Rutgers, Penn State, Minnesota. So that's going to be the stretch where they're going to have to kind of get it together, because this next 2 weeks are going to be, I think, are still going to be very much growing pains.
Yeah, they might drop out of the top 25. I think you're right. I think they're not going to be, where you're used to seeing Michigan State rolling into the Big Ten. But I mean, they've got, I think from the beginning of December through the 1st or the 11th of January, that's like 10 very winnable. I mean, they should win all of those games, frankly. And that's what you got to use as your launching pad. Because after Minnesota, you go, you get Ohio State, Indiana, Purdue, Michigan. Like it turns into a pretty brutal stretch. So I think everyone needs to kind of take a deep breath at this point and that was a close one. Yeah, that was scary. They've played a tough one against Arizona. They should have won, but it's a young team and they're at a size disadvantage, and it's just they're going to have to learn how to play without size and play together. So
and I think Izzo himself is trying to figure this out too.
Yeah, for sure.
It's a first for him, and his post game comments kind of alluded to trying to figure out how to practice them the best way. So it's an adjustment. There's still a lot of potential for big wins and big losses. So again, it's going to take another month or so. I think that this team needs to.
I'm with you. St. John's.
I know nothing about St. John's.
All right, let me give a quick brief because I was reading up about him.
The Ken Palm account I was using expired, I think, and I haven't renewed that yet. So I'm not. I'm still in football mode. I'm always in football mode, especially now. Me personally.
You're reaching peak season.
All the coaching changes are happening now, so I didn't even catch the first half of the Gulf Coast game.
All right. Well, I got you.
So what's up with St. John's?
Well, I think the first fun fact is that Marvin Clark is on St. John's.
Oh, I totally forgot about this.
Yeah.
We should have had Joe on the podcast.
Yeah. He can't. Yeah, the president of the fan club. He can't play. He's obviously sitting out, but
he's got all the secrets.
What's that?
He's got all the secrets.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, it's not great. So he's sitting over there, him and Chris Mullen, probably chatting it up on the bench, so you'll see a familiar face. But it looks like, from what I can tell, they had a really impressive recruiting class last year. The 2 freshmen that they got, their starting backcourt, it looks like Shamari Pons and and Marcus Lovett are 2 guards, about 6 foot, 6'1", and they're, between the 2 of them, leading the team in assists, rebounds, and scoring. Lovett's averaging 24 points a game, shooting 50% from the field. Pons is averaging 7 boards, 5 on the glass, 2 on the offense, as a guard, and it's pretty impressive. So it's a freshman-laden team, very similar to Michigan State, but I mean they've had the keys handed to them.
Yeah, I mean this was a bad team last year.
Yeah, very bad. I mean, this is a game they should win. This is a game they should win. But yeah, they're pretty young. Let me see here. They only have one. I mean,
they played, but Bethune-Cookman, Binghamton beat both of those handily. Then the most recent game was lost to Minnesota.
Yeah. I mean, it's probably a team.
Lost to Minnesota.
Yeah. So between Pons is averaging 17 a game, 17 and 7 as a 6'1" guard. And Lovett's averaging 24, 3, and 5 assists. Like, they do have 2 guys averaging almost 3 blocks a game, Tariq Owens and Kasum Yakwe. So they might have a little bit of size, but they're not an overly big team. I think they only have 1 guy let's see here. They only have 2 guys over 6'9". So I guess they got a little more size than Michigan. They got more size than Michigan State. But, I mean, you like to think if you can keep – I would like to think that Tum Tum can kind of give Lovett a little gear that he hasn't seen from a defensive guard so far, and hopefully kind of get in his back pocket and slow him down a bit. Seems like if you can make him inefficient and slow down the other guy as well, Pons, they should be able to win this game. It's unlike Florida Gulf Coast where they have I feel like they had a bunch of upperclassmen who were just making plays, and they've kind of been there, done that. This is a St. John's team that's super underexperienced, and like you said, just not.
I mean, MSU is too, so.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. So hopefully it's a win they can get, but St. John's is averaging almost 90 points a game, a couple high-flying, big-scoring guards. So it'll be another test, but hopefully State can get it.
Yeah, so we'll see where things go.
There you go.
Next week we'll have probably do our football postmortem, see how things go with basketball. But for now, have a happy Thanksgiving. If you're listening to this beforehand. What do you think about Big Ten playing over Thanksgiving weekend? Do you like? I mean, they used to not do it. Now with bye weeks, I guess it kind of fits in. But do you like it, or do you prefer the old days when there was no conference title game and they finished playing the week before Thanksgiving?
Oh, I don't mind it at all. I like it. I mean, hey, the more football, the better. If I'm going to be on vacation and I'm not going to be working, let me get as much as possible. I appreciate tradition, and I understand that, but I'm also a proponent of another bye week added in. So I would be okay with them pushing it another week into December. But I'm all for it. I'm excited. I'm excited to be in sweatpants the rest of the week and just watch some football and eat some turkey.
Yep. So, all right, guys. Thanks for listening. We'll talk to you next week.
All right. Happy Thanksgiving.
See you. You good, man?
Yeah, I'm good.
All right. See you.
All right, man. I'll talk to you.